Well, just 48 hours after President Obama addressed the nation, there are growing questions tonight over his response to the worst terrorist attack since 9/11. As the president argues for staying the course on his current strategy, despite a new poll showing 64% of Americans believe his strategy is not working.
The threat from terrorism is real, but we will overcome it. We will destroy ISIL and any other organization that tries to harm us. Our success won't depend on tough talk, or abandoning our values, or giving in to fear.
Brit Hume is our Fox News senior political analyst. So, Brit, I will never forget seeing you on 9/11, sitting on the set down in Washington, talking about how that was a before and after moment where you would remember, you know, what America was like prior and what it would be like after. And that is not to say that San Bernardino rises to that level, but it is a major terror attack on U.S. soil. And the question for you is whether our commander-in-chief struck the right tone and the right message and pushed the right policy when we listened to him on Sunday night.
Well, Megyn, it's a little bit hard to judge a person's leadership on a matter in which the person's really not trying to lead. Indeed, Megyn, to the extent that he seems to be wanting more than anything, and this despite all that's happened, to lead America away from what he considers its unfortunate interventionist past. President Bush, of course, changed the entire course of his presidency, the entire focus of it, and became immediately a wartime president. President Obama, although this particular attack was not nearly as severe as in terms of the loss of life as 9/11 was, we've been engaged in trying to defeat these terrorists ever since, and what the president has done has manifestly failed to do that, and indeed the threat from ISIS and al-Qaeda's successor has only grown. And, you know, he seems impervious to all that in terms of the willingness to change his policy, which is, of course, one in which he wants the leadership, and particularly the soldiers, to come from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we saw this after Fort Hood, where he said workplace violence and stuck to it for so many years. I mean, that Sunday was the first time I heard him refer to that as terrorism. And this attack out in San Bernardino, so many in the administration seems to try so hard to get this to be workplace violence, which of course it wasn't, and all the signs were staring us in the face. And it leaves people with an uneasy feeling about whether we're looking at this with clear eyes and responding accordingly, Brit.
Well, I think that's right, Megyn, and I think that people are far more alarmed about this than the president seems to be, and nothing about his demeanor or his words gives us a sense that he is really ready to go after ISIS and similar terrorist organizations with real fervor, and, you know, with the kind of urgency in which you do, as, for example, George H.W. Bush did in the aftermath of Iraq's invasion of Kuwait, where you make an all-out administration-wide military and diplomatic effort to create a coalition, build an armed force, and use whatever force it took to go and reverse what had happened. And of course, you saw it in his son's presidency, when, as we talked about earlier, he completely reversed the course of his administration and focused to the greatest extent.
And then when it was failing, when his strategy was failing, Brit, he reversed again and came out and said, my strategy is not working, which we all knew anyway. And we seem to be at that same point now as we see ISIS is not contained in the Middle East. No sooner did the president say that than his own chairman of the Joint Chiefs said exactly the opposite. And as they make strides in the Middle East, what we see is a corresponding boldness here at home where people feel excited by it. They feel inspired by the ISIS successes over there. So it's not completely irrelevant to what happens here in the homeland.
Yeah, and the president talks a lot about how, you know, if we went over there big and came in with a serious invading force, that would play into ISIS's hands. Maybe. What I think is more likely that what's playing into ISIS's hands is the sense of ISIS's invincibility, that when they are attacked in one place and perhaps successfully or restrained in one area, they show the ability to attack in another, as Paris and San Bernardino have so clearly illustrated. And so I think the president, you know, his concept, what I'm concerned about is his concept is wrong. And if his concept is wrong, he's not going to, and his willingness to look at the problem in the eye and call it what it is misguided as well. So we have these dual problems with him. And yeah, it has been said of him, I saw somebody today called him a milksop, Well, he's not really that. He's
I don't
too
even know what that
stubborn
is.
to be.
What does that mean?
It's a weak, basically a weakling. He's not really that in the sense that we...
word. I'm not saying about Obama. I just like the word milksop.
It's a colorful word. I checked its meaning before. I thought, wait, I haven't heard that in a while. So. But he's really not that in this sense. He's been pretty tough in the sense of his rigidity in refusing to change course. And the speech on the other night was remarkable in that sense, that he came out and delivers this 15-minute address in which he basically did three things. One is he admitted that San Bernardino and a couple of other events as well were terrorism for the first time. Then he proceeded to lay out for us all of the steps he'd taken that had failed to prevent San Bernardino. And then he spent much of the speech lecturing us on how we were now to behave toward Muslims, suggesting to me anyway that he doesn't trust Americans to behave properly in the aftermath of this attack. It was discouraging.
Do you know Donald Trump? He may have been seeing something that the rest of us didn't anticipate, Brit. Gotta go.
Well, he certainly saw a moment for himself.
Great to see you.
Thanks, Megyn.